by the Inspector General yesterday detailing some conditions and some additional DPW facilities. She said that certain conditions had been improved since her first report, but she also pointed out other conditions that she thought were substandard. Can you respond to that, and can you defend the conditions that were highlighted in the report?
So I'll start off by saying this, Emily. Not only is everyone aware, but about those experiences, but out of the outline in that report, but also we have to thank those workers first and foremost, because they're some of the hardest working people who do the jobs that are the most thankless. As I spend time with them, as I did earlier this week, they often talk about how they feel sometimes unseen. And for decades, they've done those jobs without significant improvements at all to their facilities. We're talking about DPW not building a new facility in my lifetime, right? That's the truth in reality. And the first and foremost and most biggest thing that the OIG is bringing attention to, in my opinion, is the decades of disinvestment into the agency's workers. And that's why immediately after we got into office, we started to lay that groundwork for how to deal with those issues. We're talking about $20 million to complete renovations and improvements at these facilities over the next 3 years, making sure that we've modernized their day-to-day efforts, making sure that we've raised up their salaries. We're in the process of continuing to make the immediate repairs to improve the current working conditions and expedited planning for those ultimate renovations that we want to see. But I think it's important to note that the issue is taking on a new sense of urgency for a particular reason that is going to be real for all of us. We have to understand, again, when you talk about not just DPW facilities, right? This is the same conversation that we've had about public schools in Baltimore, and through the 21st Century School Program, we have now seen that change. This is the same conversation that you and I had in South Baltimore when I unveiled what we were going to start doing with recreation and parks, because you're talking about facilities that have not been touched since they were built, long before Brandon Scott was taking breath, in most cases long before my parents even lived in Baltimore City. And those investments that we're now making to make sure that not just for our DPW workers, right? The fact that we now have the money and the plan and going to be implementing so that every school student in Baltimore City now will have air conditioning and heating in their school, right? That's a big deal for us to be on the back side of that. Now that we have these plans for how we're building and renovating new rec centers, and now we have these plans and the money to do these facilities for our DPW workers, we have to talk about this all in together. And I know that the city administrator was actually out with the Inspector General yesterday morning looking at sites, and saw that these many of the issues, if not most of them, had already been addressed, and we're going to continue to work to address those issues. But what we cannot allow to happen is not the understanding that we're talking about facilities that have had zilch, nada investment, and now you have an administration that is actually going to be building new ones so that they can have the quality facilities that they deserve.
Understanding that it takes a little bit of time to do some of this facility improvements, do you think you're moving fast enough on some of the short-term things, like having water, having Gatorade, having ice available?
Yeah, I'll just say that they always have water, Gatorade, ice. They make sure that those things are out there and available to them. They're going to continue to do that as they always do each and every day. We're going to make sure that that stuff is there the same way that we had to. But as you know, that we know that some of the stuff just takes time. And I think that when you think about even things about air conditioning, right? The reality is that when we started talking about this a few weeks ago, we were talking about extreme heat, right? And when you're talking about extreme heat, I don't care, knowing a lot about HVAC, all air conditioning systems are going to be straining when you're talking about consecutive days of 105-degree temperatures, and we have to make sure that we understand that as well. And you're talking about buildings, Emily, that weren't built to have air conditioning, right? You can't go and plug window units up just randomly into a building if the electricity infrastructure in that facility can't handle that. And that's why you see the quote-unquote stopgap temporary measures as we work to building and renovating the facilities so that they can have this, much like we're doing with schools and rec centers across the city.